Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport and a very late review of the Formula E from Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, I've been pretty unwell all weekend and it was actually difficult staying awake long enough to watch the race. So I actually watched it this morning and then the rest of it this afternoon. But I'm now going to talk about it even though it's quite late at night. But I mean, I'll get to it eventually. That's not to say it was so bad it made me ill and kept putting me to sleep. But this still wasn't the amazing Formula E chaos we've come to know and love. Instead, this was a better race, or two better races than we saw in Mexico. But I was still disappointed by the lack of overtaking, and especially in the midfield, cars were very bunched together, but there weren't really moves being taken. And I don't know if that's an issue with the track, which maybe it is. There is a whole point with Diriyah where there's like a sequence of like 14 corners where you pretty much can't overtake. So I would argue that's not a great racetrack. Maybe we could do something about that. I'm not saying you have to overtake at every corner and it should be easy, but you know, any corner should create an opportunity to set up a move. It just shouldn't take 14 corners to set up a move. That might be exaggerating a bit. I don't think it's 14 corners. But I think there was a bit too much follow the leader. And we saw this last year in terms of energy saving, where no one wanted to lead the race and they kept like backing off and letting people overtaking. It was getting a bit ridiculous. This wasn't that. This was just simply the cars couldn't get onto the other line to overtake, which is very disappointing to see. But there was some good action in this race, in these two races. And firstly, Mitch Evans really went for it. In terms of actually people going and trying to overtake, I think Mitch Evans went for about half the moves in the whole race. And it didn't work out a couple of times. But, you know, bless him for trying. And it was a messy move on the last lap. Probably not worth the risk. Dropped him out of podium contention. But, you know, at least he did something. From a fan perspective, I should make you Mitch Evans the best driver there. But unfortunately, he dropped to 5th and lost out on a podium. But it had been a good battle during the race between Mitch Evans, Jake Dennis and Jean-Eric Vergne. But the one thing that ruined it, and it's ruined races before, attack mode. If attack mode didn't exist, Jake Dennis would have had to work his way past Vergne and Evans. And I think he could have, because he definitely had more pace in his car than the pair of them. But because of attack mode, they dropped behind him and he was able to get a gap and kind of just cleared off. So we never actually really got a really good scrap between three drivers that we could have got if there was no attack mode. People have defended attack mode before. Honestly, this is not the first time that I feel a race has been completely spoiled by it. Get rid of attack mode. It sucks. You don't need it. The energy management has always been enough for Formula E to have. It doesn't need all these gimmicks, and attack mode really is the worst of them. No, fan boost was the worst of them. Attack mode's pretty bad. I don't like attack mode at all. Completely takes me out of the racing, and as I said, it's been a few occasions where it has spoiled the idea of a really good race. And other than that, there was not a lot of chopping and changing in this race. Nick Cassidy did a great job coming through the field, getting on the podium. Sam Bird did a really good job as well. Other than that, there was no real surprises. Sergio Sette Camara really being the only one in the ERT. He started higher up but did drop back, but he did still score points for the team. So that puts ERT ahead of Abt Cupra and Mahindra, who are yet to score points. And once again, Nick De Vries, really bad weekend, really struggled at the back of the field. Race 2 it started strangely because the grid was mixed up because Sebastian Buemi had crashed in qualifying and brought out the red flags, and I think some of the fast drivers didn't get a chance to put in a decent lap, so we had people like Mitch Evans and Jake Dennis starting much further down the grid, and we had Robin Frijns leading the way for a bit. It was left to Nick Cassidy to win the race, with Robin Frijns second, and a brilliant podium for Oliver Rowland in third. Jake Hughes did a great job in fourth, and Sasha Fenestras was up in sixth. Very, very strange field. Really, really sad race with Jehan Daruvula, because I think it really showed how much trouble he's having getting used to this series. The first 2 races of the year, he's been running around the back pretty much anonymous. Managed to skip up the grid to like 5th or 6th because of the qualifying issues, but he just couldn't stay there. He was going backwards, and then he had a mechanical issue that took him out of the race. And so yeah, I said before this season began that it was going to be really tough on Jehan Daruvula, and 3 races in so far, it has proved to be so. This race was pretty good as well, and there were overtakes, but I think that was mostly because we saw a lot of the faster drivers down the back of the field. But I think the lack of progress from people like Jake Dennis and Mitch Evans shows that there is something going on in Formula E that's not quite working right now. Pascal Wehrlein put in a great performance to climb a few places, but it was not a great weekend for the Porsche team. They did score points, but not a whole boatload, and Wehrlein has pretty much everyone has had issues so far this year, at least once, except Nick Cassidy, who's been on the podium in all 3 races, has taken his first win of the year, and has sort of cleared off in the title race. I think he's like 25, 30 points ahead of everyone else. And I think the gap from like 2nd to 8th is really close. But Cassidy has started to pull a lead. Jaguar leading in the Constructors as well, which I said in my predictions video. I bet you didn't believe me, but they're doing it right now. So yeah, Formula E, Saudi Arabia was a lot better than Mexico. I did enjoy both races. It's just feeling a little bit flat at the moment. I'm wondering if things will pick up, or maybe there's just something that's just not working right now in Formula E. As for everything else, I have not watched a lot of motorsport because, as I said, I've not been that well, and I've not really been staying awake that much. So I haven't watched a lot of it. I have watched highlights of the WRC. It looked entertaining enough. A 3-way fight between Neuville, Ogier and Elfyn Evans looked pretty entertaining. I think WRC, despite the lack of cars, has an advantage where it's difficult to make rallying boring. So even with only 8 cars in the top group, it was still interesting to see. There was some good battling. I really impressed by Neuville. You know, we've seen many times just he'll crumble and fall away or crash. But he put in some great performances to come back on, I think, the 3rd or 4th day. And he kept Ogier at bay, stopped Ogier from winning a 10th Monte Carlo. So, good on Neuville. It's a good way to start the year. This could be his year. I do think it'll be between Neuville and Evans. I think with Rovanpera and Ogier not doing the full season, they're going to come and take points away from Elfyn Evans. And that's kind of sucky and probably not good strategy from Toyota. But yeah, they're both such talented rally drivers that you kind of just have to give in to whatever they want just to get them there. Rovanpera, I think he's far too young to be taking a break from rallying already, and I think 2 world championships in a row has spoiled him. It's a shame he did it so early, but I guess there really is like a lack of quality in the WRC right now. Mikkelsen had a tough rally, but I'm glad to see him back in Rally 1 machinery, to be honest. Gregoire Munster did a good job, but he had an issue late on. Adrien Formal didn't crash and did a really good job to finish 5th. I was actually really impressed by him. I mean, he didn't really ever challenge the podium, but it was still a great performance from him. One of the best I've seen from the Frenchman. As for everyone else, Tanak had issues, but was sort of just there in 4th. Katsuta, you know, I think he also had his issues, but, you know, finishing the points. It's just a shame there's just so few cars in Rally 1. If it was a tighter field, at least 10 cars would be nice. But I honestly, and the new point system is terrible. I don't fully understand it. They just seem to award points for things. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes throughout the year. But as for now, I'm looking forward to Neuville versus Evans and seeing who's going to come out. Like, these 2 drivers are the quintessential second place men, so being given the opportunity to win a championship, this is an open door. And you know, I think Neuville, it's time Neuville wins the World Rally Championship. So that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Hopefully I'll start feeling better and get some more videos done. It's been a bit I've been a bit of a slacker for the last couple of months actually, but I'm getting back on track. I'm focused. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts down below, and have a good one.